Hello, everyone. I am here with book 3 out of 25 in my 25 Victorian books in 2023. That was many numbers project, and it is the Journals of George Eliot. Now, I'm not really coming prepared to this, I'm realizing as I hold this up, because there were so many things that I underlined. This was, if you like George Eliot, you will really enjoy this. It is a little bit pricey, but if you are at all considering getting it, I would get it sooner rather than later, because I think this is one of those things that they're printing it kind of regularly now, and then it's going to peter off and it's going to be out of print. That's the hunch that I have. So like I said, if you're at all mildly interested, it was a really interesting window into George Eliot's life. And it says it is edited by Margaret Harris and Judith Johnston. And it's interesting because the way they laid it out, they kind of have it by date for most things, for her diaries, for her journals. And you get an introduction to what was going on in her life, during this period of time. And then in addition to that, there are a few essays that she writes, kind of thoughts on it, kind of travel writing, basically. And so there's Recollections of Jersey, Recollections of Ilfracombe, which I have to say, the Recollections of Ilfracombe was one of my absolute favorite. I'll just read you this little snippet from it. It says, "One evening we went down to the shore through the tunnels to see the sunset. Standing in the Ladies' Cove, we had before us the sharp fragments of rock jutting out of the waves and standing black against the orange and crimson sky. How lovely to look into that brilliant distance and see the ship on the horizon, seeming to sail away from the cold and dim world behind it, right into the golden glory. I have always that sort of feeling when I look at sunset. It always seems to me that there in the west lies a land of light and warmth and love." She just seems so happy, and if you look up pictures of Ilfracombe, it looks so lovely. So all of the other travel writing, though, I really was kind of bored. And I realized from the other Victorian diaries and journals that I've read, it's just not really my style of travel diary. I kind of want, Maud, the illustrated diary of a Victorian lady, hearing about funny anecdotes about people. I think that the travel diaries, so she also, I'm jumping around a lot. She talks about Germany a lot. And then specifically, there's Recollections of our journey from Munich to Dresden, Recollections of Italy, more Recollections of Italy, and that's where it ends, I think, is in Italy. Yes. So I want to hear personal anecdotes. I think these are really great if you're traveling where she is, to hear, oh, she saw this, and oh, she recommends going to see this. So I think I want to go try to see that. There was a section of how I came to write fiction, and that includes kind of her inspiration for Adam Bede. That was fascinating to me. That's what I wanted so much more of. So this, I really enjoy this, but I could have enjoyed it so much more if she had written like How I Came to Write Fiction and Recollections of Ilfracombe. She has this real playful writing style in Recollections of Ilfracombe, whereas the other were the other travel sections were kind of like, this is what the architecture here was like. So it's not an interest of mine personally. That's why I didn't enjoy those sections as much. Then she has kind of earlier, do they call them journals or diaries? Okay, so her earlier diaries in her earlier years when she was living with George Henry Lewis, they are much more detailed. Her reflections, and here's a passage, okay? This is from 1861, April 19th, 1861. And she's reflecting kind of on the year, and she suffered a lot with poor health. So I was like, I feel you, George Eliot, as I was reading this. There were so many weeks where it was, feeling ill again, feeling ill again, feeling ill again, just right in a row. It was a real struggle. And to think, with everything that she accomplished, and feeling so unwell all the time is astonishing. So this passage says, "The chat was agreeable enough, but the sight of the gliding ships darkening against the dying sunlight made me feel chat rather importunate. I think when I give a whitebait dinner, I will invite no one but my second self, and we will agree not to talk audibly." This morning, for the first time, I feel myself quietly settled at home. I am in excellent health, and long to work steadily and effectively. If it were possible that I should produce better work than I have yet done, at least there is a possibility that I may make greater efforts against indolency and the despondency that comes from too egoistic a dread of failure. And so these sections of the diary, the earlier sections, I find really compelling and interesting. I also love that apparently her publisher gifted her a pug. I always think it's a very bold gift to gift someone a pet. But maybe he knew that she wanted a dog before that. She also went to the Crystal Palace to hear the Messiah. One person wrote her a letter, a fan, and was like, listen, George Eliot, your books are a cut above the rest. I was in the bookstore. I read some snippets of Scenes of Clerical Life, and I read some snippets of Adam Bede, but I'm very poor. Could you please send me copies of your book? And she just included the letter, and she never said whether she sent him the copies or not. I don't know. Okay, this also was really interesting. She says, we have been much annoyed lately by Newbie's advertisement of a book called Adam Bede Jr., a sequel. And today Dickens has written to mention a story of the tricks which are being used to push the book under the pretense of its being mine. One librarian has been forced to order the book against his will because the public have demanded it. Dickens is going to put an article on the subject in Household Words in order to scarify the rascally bookseller. The Blackwoods are slow to act in the matter, hitherto have not acted at all, not being strongly moved, apparently, by what is likely to injure me more than them. Several persons have expressed their surprise at the silence of the Blackwoods. And I know from, I'm pretty sure it's in The Man Who Invented Christmas, the movie, that people did that with Dickens' books. So this is going to be something that happens with books that aren't copyrighted. There was a Philadelphia edition of Jane Austen's Emma that was published, and she never got a dime off of it. It's called the Philadelphia Emma, now that edition. November 28th, this entry I took note of also. Since I last wrote in this journal, I have suffered much from physical weakness accompanied with mental depression. The loss of the country has seemed very bitter to me, and my want of health and strength has prevented me from working much. Still worse, it has made me despair of ever working well again. I am getting better now by the help of tonics, and I should be better still if I could gather more bravery, resignation, and simplicity of striving. In the meantime, my cup is full of blessings. My home is bright and warm with love and tenderness, and in more material, vulgar matters, we are very fortunate. She speaks a lot about her stepsons and refers to them by nicknames. She was very affectionate with them. And then when George Henry Lewis died, she made sure that they were adults at that point. I was going to say that they made sure she was taken care of and doing okay. And she writes a lot about her grief in here. Then when she did get legally married later in life, it's just mentioned like marrying, Mr. Cross today. That's all it says. There's not much detail. So the later diaries are not nearly as detailed as the earlier ones. Highly enjoyable for a George Eliot fan. Oh, and then I will keep this spoiler free, but she did talk about one character who you cannot stand this character. And she says, killed so-and-so in great excitement, ! And that made me laugh so hard. And I'm glad that she did kill that character because they are dreadful. Those are my thoughts on the journals of George Eliot. Glad to have 3 in the books now, the very start of the year. So now my Victorian reading the new Victorian reading is going to come to a bit of a pause for a bit because I realized that I just don't like having Romola and Can You Forgive Her on the go at the same time. I am doing some physical reading of Romola, but also a fair amount of audiobook reading. And I just don't like juggling 2 big Victorian tomes. So I want to have Romola come to a close, and then I will pick back up with Can You Forgive Her? And then also I am reading Charlotte Mary Young's The Heir of Redcliffe, and I am so excited about it. I am so thoroughly enjoying my reread, and I don't want to be juggling other stuff along with that. So I think I will just finish those hopefully in the next couple weeks, and then I will pick back up with Can You Forgive Her? Thank you as always for watching, and I will be back with another video soon. Thank you for following my journey through 25 Victorian books in this year, and have a lovely day, and I will be back with another video soon. Bye.